Welcome, everyone. I am Nicole Chavarria. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at LND Technical Services, and I'm so excited to have Jake Woodard here with me today. He is the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at LND. Jake, so happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Can you let me know a little bit more about your role? Because you're new at LND, so you have a fresh perspective compared to a lot of people. So I'd love to hear more about your background.
Yeah, so I'm about a month in at LND now, but I'm very familiar with the team here. My background, I come from 10 years in the EPC industry, working on high voltage projects across the nation. I've been working, very closely with the LND team, going on really since, the start of the company for the last 5 years. So very familiar with the company culture, what we're capable of doing. And so I'm very excited to be a part of the team.
Super excited to have you here. I know we were looking for someone in the much higher level sales and marketing, so super happy to have you on board. And I know you just came back from a trip to Vietnam to see our team there. Could you tell us a little bit more about the impressions that you had of the team?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to me, this is some of my first time of actually getting the experience to work with teams on a global platform and in a global setting. But it's really, to me, it's an advantage for us as a company, in the U.S. right now with the increased demand for labor resources, being able to have a pool of resources in a what I would consider like an untapped market is a strategic advantage for us. And so getting an opportunity to meet this team in person and seeing what they're really capable of is, it was a very great experience. Getting to spend time in the office and understanding, their day-to-day business operations and procedures. And, one of the biggest takeaways that I had from it is that, it's very similar to what we do here in the U.S. And, we're holding ourselves to the same qualities and standards and expectations, and so that the product that we provide to our customers is the same, matter whether it's coming from our team in Vietnam or here in the U.S.
Yeah, amazing. And I know the Vietnam team is critical in kind of showcasing our ethics as a company in terms of the charitable side of it and making sure that we're giving back. So can you tell us a little bit more about that side of it?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to join the team to go to the charity event at the local orphanage, and the company buy-in, all the way up from Nam, the president and the owners of the company, all the way through the individuals of the company. It was just such a true, genuine buy-in and enjoyment to be a part of that experience, to give back to the local community. It was a very amazing experience. That the want to do more for others outside of our organization or our industry and really just provide a betterment to the world is awesome, and it kind of a true testament to the company culture. So it was a great experience. I was very, very fortunate to be a part of that.
Amazing. We're very proud of them and all the work that they do, definitely. And now to go a little bit deeper into your background, I know that you're the head of sales and marketing here, but you have a very strong technical background from what I remember. So can you tell us a little bit how you made that transition? Because I'm sure some people, maybe they've been in engineering for a while and they want to make a career change into sales and marketing. How did you make that transition?
So I started my career entry level in project management, and started as a project coordinator, working in a very supportive type role on standard utility projects, anything from a smaller 3 breaker ring bus type project to ultimately through my career I had the opportunity to work on some very high profile, larger, complex projects, some large 500 kV series capacitor projects, as well as other FACS and GIS projects. And so through my career and advancing through the project management levels, I was fortunate to be able to be, exposed to all the different sides of the business, from engineering through the procurement, and then even some of the sales and business development part of it. I really feel like the project management group is kind of a core part of the business that have opportunity to have your fingers in kind of multiple parts of the business, so all the way throughout it. So as I'm working and transitioning through my career and becoming a project manager, and then ultimately finding opportunities to get into more of leadership style roles, I really felt like the project management group was a great place to kind of foster that growth. and provide me with opportunities to develop myself and further my career. I think a big part of career advancement is, one, you obviously have to do your job well, right? As you're really getting in and doing your job and understanding your roles and responsibilities and kind of getting into that comfort zone, being able to look up and look out and look at what the other team members on your project teams or without the company, what they're doing in other places that you can provide support was a big part of what I feel like was, part of my success and my career advancement, as I would see an opportunity to support another project team with something that I may have been through, lessons learned on a past project, or, ideas that I could bring in from just past experiences in general, really got to help give me a broader set of exposure to the entire company that helps that as you are prepared to move into a leadership type role, at that point you've been able to be a part of the multiple functions that it takes to operate the business.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure starting in project management, working cross-functionally with so many different teams in a company probably got you used to working with a wide variety of people with different styles all the time. Has that influenced how you now are a leader in managing different teams? Or what was like the biggest influence in that?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to cross-functional team leadership, nobody is going to be an expert in every function of the business, right? And so we have people that we bring into our teams that have their own attributes and skills that we have to lean on them to be the technical experts for. And so, again, having the opportunity in the project manager type role to lean against these experts and try to genuinely understand what their needs are to be successful in their roles so that I could provide that support in those functions really kind of helped me understand what it takes to successfully operate a business and provide a product and a service to our clients, that at the end of the day is been a good experience. And so as I get into leadership and I've looked at it from the same light, I look at each of the individual teams and departments and what they contribute to the company. And we have to, trust them to be the experts in their field and try to lead from more of a supporting type role, and trying to foster provide them the backup of what they need to be successful in their roles so that ultimately the company can be successful on its goals.
Yeah, definitely. Has that influenced the types of qualities that you look for when you hire for your team, either in the past or currently at LND?
Yeah, absolutely. I look at myself and I often say that I'm humble, hungry, and smart. And so those are attributes that I look at, in other team members as we're bringing them in. You hire for culture and you train talent. I'm very big on that. And so, finding, individuals to join the team that are willing to learn, willing to put in the work to understand what it's going to take to, push the business to where we need to go, to me is probably one of the more critical things. You really want to find people with drive and the want to learn and to do more. And then, as we go along the way, we can teach the talent side of it and the expertise as we go through. Talent development, I think, is a big part of a company's success.
I definitely agree. And investing in that talent, because I think some other companies reach a point where if they're too big, sometimes they would rather deal with the turnover instead of investing in it. But I feel like at L&D, we really are growing much more sustainably so that we could nurture that career path of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's a longer play, right? But we are only as good as our people. I truly believe that. And so from like whenever I look at some of the talent and the expertise that we have in the engineering groups and our field services group, that's some experience that you can't just find out on the street. And so you have to retain that talent. And then all along the way, you have to be, bringing in, some of the more junior entry level type roles and allowing them to work underneath these senior, experts in their fields and allowing that growth, for that individual to become one day, these same talented experts that we have in each of our fields. So,
Yeah, definitely. And is there any piece of advice that you would give to someone who also aspires to be a leader in the energy industry or is similar to you, like a leadership role?
it's similar to what I kind of touched on previously. Focus on your job, focus on what you do today, do it well. And whenever you find free capacity, look up, look out, see where you can support other members of your team, and try to broaden your knowledge base, across all the disciplines of the company. I think that, really understanding how a company works from tip to tail, from the sales side of it through execution and finance and closeout, all of that is extremely important. With any spare capacity that you have, reach out and try to help and become part of, other areas outside of what your current job role may be. And that exposure is what's going to give you the growth to be able to move on to the next levels throughout your career.
I agreed. Love that advice. And now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty because I know you love talking technical things. So, in your and I also like love how fast paced the energy industry is, which I feel like keeps our job as people of LND like very exciting. So, in your opinion, what would you say are the major influences that are driving changes in the energy industry right now?
I really feel like there's a perfect storm that's kind of been brewing over the last 5 years. And when you look at, our current goals and needs, I mean, we're in an unprecedented time for the U.S. utility industry right now. Utilities are balancing right now the grid resiliency and the grid hardening programs just to try to maintain, some of the aging infrastructure that we have today. Alongside this growth that we're seeing in our market from, reshoring, U.S. manufacturing through the growth in industrials, and then obviously the AI race and the data center boom that we're seeing right now. And so it's such a unique situation that the market is in that I imagine will probably become a case study for a college economics class someday. But I was recently reading an article that was, stating that the growth demand that we're seeing here, we haven't seen since, post World War II, and some of the growth that we've seen, in our country, back then. And now, there's forecast of up to, 450 additional gigawatts of load that could be coming onto our grid that we don't have resources to supply and the generation to support. And so when you're talking about bringing on that magnitude of additional generation to a grid while you're balancing these other things is such a dynamic marketplace that's very interesting. And I think it's forcing our utilities to look at it from more of a realist perspective than some type of an agenda-based approach. And I think that's what we have to do. If you look back in the last 5 years, new natural gas and nuclear projects and generation that was being brought on board was to the tune of like 40 gigawatts. So you're talking about a magnitude of scale of 10x over the next 5 years. And so it's all going to be about, what are the available technologies that we have today to be able to support it. I think we're going to continue to see growth in the renewable sector because that technology is there and it's available, and the lead times can support the needs of some of these large projects that are coming on board, while we see the continued growth of natural gas and then recommissioning of nuclear facilities. So it's very exciting times. I really like the idea of the energy realist perspective because, again, if we're going to achieve the goals and build the infrastructure that we need to build it, then we have to just look at what is available. And Shannon, on one of these previous posts, had talked about the contractor's perspective of being able to, we have exposure to multiple different utilities, and from our perspective, it's a very unique but awesome position to be in, to have all of this different knowledge that we can collect from different utilities to try to bring in as our customers are facing some of these challenges, to provide a different insight of, a world that they may not have seen, or other customers that have faced similar challenges. And so it's a very, again, unique, unprecedented times, but it's exciting, and it provides definitely job security for all of us for the next 10 years or so. And then again, L&D, we get to do the maintenance on the back end of it. So after we build all the new infrastructure, then, we'll be fortunate enough to get to maintain it. So there's a lot of job security that comes through that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And also, along with what you just said, with the 10x growth that we're seeing, especially with the increased energy load on the grid, is there anything in particular that you think is like the top thing that utilities right now are doing right in the sector? Is it kind of using companies like us to transition their older equipment to more sustainable sources? Is it companies that are already sustainable, maybe transitioning more into nuclear energy? Like, what do you say like makes the biggest impacts right now?
I think the biggest impact right now, again, that I love the term, energy realist, because I feel like the utilities that are doing this well, are looking at, what is the available technologies that are there to meet the pace of growth that we're seeing, through the different projects that are coming on board. I think that we'll still continue to see, growth through the nuclear sector, and we'll see, new combined cycle plants being developed for natural gas every day. But the lead times for some of these projects, are new combined cycle gas facility is 5 years and probably growing. And so if we're talking about, what technology we have available today to meet some of this growth, that's where I think you'll still see what infrastructure is in place, staying in place for as long as, we can maintain it, and phasing it out through these different programs, bringing on new renewables. So again, it's a realist perspective because it's a very unprecedented time. And again, from a strategy of how do you get the work done, utilities, there's been an increased growth in retirement and retirees at utilities. And so the amount of available technical expertise that is out in the marketplace is, a constraint, just to be frank. And so leaning on contractors, like LND, who have this experience to be able to provide and support these utilities to meet their goals, I think it is a necessity to be able to continue their endeavors. And so I think that's why it's important for us to, as we look at our business model, to make sure that we stay focused on what we're good at, and stay, true to our culture and our core values, and operate within integrity so that we can be that trusted supplier for these utilities and different developers as we support them and their growth.
I agree. And along with technology being forced to evolve rapidly to support this growth, is there any maybe particular aspect or particular technology of the industry that you see innovation happening the fastest?
I don't know. I like to look at all the different new technologies that have came out, the different, hydrogen fuel cells that I've seen certain utilities bring in as a temporary generation source until they can get combined cycle gas or a nuclear plant on board. And so there are new technologies out there that I think we'll continue to see adoption to. The small nuclear reactors, right? SMRs there, could be a potential large player in future growth, but it takes time to develop a lot of these technologies and prove them out. And so I think that as we're seeing new technology, come into our industry, we still have to look at, what technology we have available to us today to be able to support that growth. I do think that, from grid digitalization, there's other ways that I think that some of the utilities are adopting programs to support the resiliency and grid hardening, in parallel with technology that is there to support a more scalable growth as we see that. I think that those type programs are very important right now to ensure that what we're building on and what we're scaling on is an infrastructure that can support the increased loads that we may see in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I need to definitely do more research into that aspect of it because I'm not too knowledgeable, but I just love how LND is so like well prepared and investing in the training of all of our field technicians to be on top of all of the new technologies as they become available.
Yeah, I think that's, in my short time here so far, one of the things that I've been the most impressed with is the breadth of knowledge that we do have, from our engineering team to our field services team, our the amount of NETA 4 technicians that we have on our bench it's amazing to be able to walk into a new customer, to be able to knowing that we have the backing of this, skilled expertise that a lot of contractors are not fortunate to have. And so our knowledge and what we bring, I think, to our customers is very valuable. And it's because our team and the experience that they have.
Yeah, definitely. And I know one of the hottest topics now in technology is the role that AI and AI data centers play. So where do you think that will affect the future of energy and the energy landscape as the demand for AI data centers becomes more and more?
So that's one that I haven't figured out yet. And I think that, understanding the
No
business.
pressure. You don't have to solve it right now.
No, it's interesting to me that with the amount of AI data centers that we're seeing, being brought in and being developed at the scale that we're seeing on what the business case is going to be, I don't know that we fully know what it's going to look like. And it's probably more like living in the days before internet. And now that we have the internet and we have that to us, it's just natural, right? And so as this technology becomes more readily available and at our fingertips, the way that we operate, the way that we do business, the way that we live our lives, it may look somewhat different. So like the AI business case to me is interesting, but I haven't quite figured it out. Yeah, it's again, like I said, it's just very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Whichever way I feel like it ends up being, our team will definitely be prepared.
Absolutely. Well, and that's one thing is that I think that no matter what, it's going to be very difficult to replace some of the knowledge and expertise of our field technicians and, our engineering team to be able to support, real time problem solving in the way that we do. Again, we may do our jobs very similarly, but equipped with new tools to help us do it more efficiently. But again, I think that we'll continue to adopt and adapt to whatever this new technology brings us to support us and how we function as a business.
Yeah, agreed. And as one of our leadership team members, where do you see LND evolving into within the next, let's say, 5 years? Like, can you describe that vision?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. When I think about where L&D is heading and our growth and vision for the company, I think that it's very important that we stay focused on what we're good at. Opportunities that we're going to see with the growth in this industry is going to be easily to be distracted. So I think making sure that we stay focused on who we are, who we are as a company and culture, I think is very important. I think that building, scalable teams and platforms to be able to support the growth that we will likely see, through the growth of our market, is very important. Um, I, I I do think that as we look at what the market offers just from the engineering and field services offerings that we provide today, we can see substantial growth as a company within our current marketplace and our current offerings of what we do. I think it's just going to be, supporting new clients, new customers, and supporting their goals. But that's not to say that it doesn't look somewhat different in 5 years, but I do believe that for sure we can take advantage of the growth in the market that we have today, in the services that we currently provide.
Amazing. I'm excited. I know whichever place we end up under your vision, I'm sure it'll be great. And then this is also a curious question. Is there any most memorable moment or most pivotal moment in your career thus far that in this industry that you think has influenced you the most in your career?
Yeah, I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. Through my career and working entry level and project management, I found myself oftentimes with an opportunity to fight outside of my weight class. To say, I was very, young and learning the industry as I'm having the opportunity to lead some very complex projects. And, to me, as I look back at those experiences, I think the success came from it. It wasn't me as an individual, but it was from the team and the people that I surrounded myself with. I worked very closely with the different experts from the engineering teams, sought guidance from mentors that I had at that point in time to help me figure out some of the challenges that we faced on a lot of these large complex projects that turned into being very fond memories for me, and I think really supported my growth as an individual and to the person that I've become today. There's a lot of fond memories in those. I had an opportunity to be a part of an office that we started up in Canton, Ohio, and relocated, from my home here in Louisiana up to Canton for around 9 months to be a part of those startup programs. So I've never looked at a problem as a challenge or as a problem itself. I've tried to look at them as opportunities, and those looking back at those memories, while they stretched me and they may have been strenuous at the time, they are fond memories that have allowed me to become the person that I am today.
That's a great outlook to have for any challenge. And one of my last questions is, I know we can't probably give away too much, but is there any particular project that you're really excited about coming up for L&D?
There's several projects that I'm looking very forward to. Some of them very technical, some of them that, probably we can't release too much information about. But what I will say is this, that our team down in Puerto Rico and the opportunity that we have to support Luma down there is amazing. And, I think that some of the programs and work that we can see through our Puerto Rico office is very interesting. Here in the U.S., some of the projects that we have the opportunity to work on through government programs and, some of the MSA and long-term agreements that we're seeing there are very exciting. But, there's, again, I mean, in the industry, we're going to see some larger substations than what we've previously had an opportunity to work on because of these data center projects. Some of the greenfield substations themselves, or even the remote end scopes of work, are very large, unique, complex projects. And so I feel like we're going to have an opportunity to work on what I would consider once in a lifetime type opportunities to build some very cool projects and be a part of some very, very awesome things.
It's amazing that our team feels so small, then the reach that these projects have are with such larger utilities that you would never think that we could achieve something like that. So it's extra proud that we are to be able to work on projects that are so impactful for millions of Americans.
Oh yeah, and I take a lot of pride in the impact that we do provide as we are a growing company. We're working on projects and commissioning projects and supporting the energization of projects that will be in place for 50 years or more, and supporting customers and new developing projects that will provide benefits throughout the U.S. for years and years to come. And so everybody wants to be a part of something larger than themselves, and that's a great thing about LND, is that we do make an impact at such a scale that we can be a part of something larger than that. We do make an impact.
So proud of our impact. This is amazing. Is there any last statement you wanted to tell our audience before we wrap up today?
No, I think we pretty well covered it all. No, I'm very excited to be a part of this team. I'm very excited to be a part of the vision of where the company is going. It feels very good to be a part of a team that you have cultural alignment all the way throughout the organization, and people want to work with good people, and I feel like that's who we are here at LND.
Couldn't agree more. And thank you for being one of those amazing, great people in our leadership team. So thank you again, Jake, for talking with me today. And I'm super excited to post this interview on the LND YouTube channel. So for everyone, stay tuned for our next interview. And thank you again, Jake, so much.
Thanks, Nicole. Awesome. Bye.